Robinson with The Athletic.
Sonny, I'm curious for that front seven. I think you guys have 12 sacks in the last 2 games. I mean, the pressure was enormous on Dylan. What did you see that was different, or what has been different for you guys so far in the playoffs?
I just think we have really good prep really well, and I think all the coaching prepares really well for the games. And I think that shows up in the game. I think our preparation has been better than the last 2 teams we played.
I'm going to go over to the right here, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, so I wonder if you could summarize Cody Simon in a nutshell. What makes him tick? What level has he been playing on for a while now, et cetera?
I think the way he plays is just a product of him doing everything the right way. And obviously, the thing that sticks out to me about him is the kind of person he is. He's an amazing person, one of the best people you ever meet. He does everything the right way, how it's supposed to be done, and he's getting the fruits of his labor. So I'm happy for him.
Do you feel like you and he are really clicking right now? I mean,
Yeah.
how long have you had that feeling, I guess?
I mean, I've had it for a while. I think Cody, he's made me a lot better player. You know, it's been a blessing being able to play next to him. I think he's helped me a lot. Obviously, he's a very experienced guy. He's a great player. So he's helped me along with a lot of different things to help me learn stuff on a faster rate.
We'll go to Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Sonny, Jack and JT play on opposite sides. Are they opposite people? Personalities?
I think they're different guys, but they're similar in certain ways. But you know, I love them both. They both got high motors. I think that's something that makes them similar. And they just love ball. They love their teammates. They love playing for each other. You know, they're more excited when the other guy gets the sack more than they are when they get their own sack. So I think that speaks volume about their character.
Off the field. I mean, what?
In terms of off the field, I think JT's a little bit more low-key off the field. I think Jack, he's kind of always like a high-energy guy. JT can kind of be a little bit more low-key sometimes, but they both just love this team. We all love hanging out with each other, so I mean, I guess you could say they're similar in that way.
We'll go to Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Sonny, Ryan said that when he was driving back from the bus, he was on the defensive bus, and he heard you guys talking the whole way, talking about stuff that happened throughout the game. How connected are you guys right now with defense, 1 through 11 or 1 through whatever, 13, 14, however you guys play?
Yeah, I think we're really well connected. I think you see it out there when guys are making plays, you know, guys running up to hype up the other player, things like that. But I think what really makes us go is the guy next to us. I think we all trust each other, we believe in each other, and we want to play for each other. So there's no one's out there with any kind of selfish intentions. It's just playing for the guy next to you.
Going to go one more question here locally, and then I'll let Scotty take it over for anyone on the Zoom. Over to the left, Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
I got 2 position part of this season. Just in your mind, what are the areas you've improved, I suppose?
I think my footwork improved over time. I think early on in the season I kind of messed myself up with my false steps, crossing over, kind of made me a little bit slower to play. So I think I got better at that. And I think I got a little better at kind of trusting myself on certain plays. I think it's something I still need to work on. Still got a lot of work to do. But I think the biggest thing in linebacker, you got to just be instinctual and just go. You can't like try and overthink things and try and over-process it, because then you'll be slow to the play every single time.
And Arvell Reese, just what have you seen out of him coming on this season, and it looks like he's ready to take over when Cody's done. Is that kind of how you view it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be he's a great player right now. He's going to be a really, really good player next year. You know, obviously he's a physical specimen, big guy, fast, can run, can hit. I think the biggest thing, he took a huge leap this year in terms of like the mental part of the game. I think he has a great understanding of the game. You know, being able to play Mike linebacker, you got to be a smart football player, and I think he took a huge jump in that part of the game this year.
We'll throw it to Texas and Scotty.
Yes, sir. We have 2 questions on Zoom. Our first is going to come from Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Sonny, you talked about how you guys prepared going into those first 2 games. How do you guys make sure you keep that same edge going into this 3rd game?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Day has been doing a good job making sure there's no let off. You know, last 2 weeks really don't matter if you lose this one. So we're not really focused on anything that's happened in the past. It's a clean slate, and we're just focused on beating Texas. They got a really good team, a really talented team, and we know that we got to bring our best to be able to win that game.
Our next question is going to come from Kurt Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Kurt, go ahead.
Morning, Sonny. Good to see you. I was curious how you assess Texas offense, and they've had their struggles in the running game. So they look like a team that kind of pass heavy and leans into the pass first. And how would you evaluate that part of their game?
I mean, you could say, I guess you say they struggled the past few games with the run game, but I think they got a super explosive run game. If you watch the Clemson game, I think they put up almost 250 rushing yards or something like that. I think they're a team that's capable of putting up around 50 points if you let them. So, I mean, defense has showed ready to play. It's an extremely talented offense on all three levels. I think the quarterback's a great player. The running backs are very, very explosive. The receivers are very explosive. They got a great tight end, great O-line. So they're a well-rounded offense.
And you guys are a big favorite in the game. Do you worry at all about overconfidence or complacency just because the way you all dominated the opposition so far?
No, I don't think any of the outside noise matters. I think there's things being said about us before we won those 2 games, and now there's things being said about us after we won those 2 games, and those things might be different, and it really doesn't matter to us. We're just focused on the opinion inside the Woody, and we know we got to bring our A game every single week. I mean, it's a really good team. It doesn't matter how we beat the last 2 teams. This is a whole completely different team.
Thank you.
Sir.
That's all our questions on Zoom.
Alrighty, we'll go back to the local level here. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yes, I mean, you guys travel, your fans travel very well, but obviously this game is in Dallas. Do you guys kind of thrive and like playing in front of hostile crowds?
I think guys kind of like going in enemy territory sometimes. It feels good being a little bit of the villain, you could say, but yeah, I mean, obviously you got to take into the fact that it is in Texas, so it could be a loud environment, could be like an away environment. We obviously know that, but I mean, it doesn't mean we're just gonna come show up and play.
And I think there's a stat that you guys, your opponents have not been called for a holding call since September or something like that. Is that something that you guys are aware of? And do you guys point out on the film, they didn't call that one, they didn't call that one?
Yeah, we're aware of this stat. We don't pay attention to it too much, though. You gotta just play. I don't really got too much to say about that. You got to just play through it and just let your talent take over. Don't let it come down to a ref decision.
Over here to the right, Austin Ward, Podcast.
Sonny, it didn't feel like against Oregon that you guys had to blitz as much as you had been in maybe some other games in the second half of the season. Why is that? What does it allow the linebackers to do when you don't have that responsibility? What made that a successful approach on Wednesday?
Yeah, I think when you got as talented, they would drop everyone else in the coverage, so it makes it a lot easier on our defense when the defensive line is just taking over like that. I mean, it's tough for an offense to do anything. You got four man rush, feel like zero coming at you, and you got everyone dropping into coverage, kind of just shelled over the field. So, I mean, it's definitely makes the defense a lot easier for everyone else when the defensive line's playing like that.
I think Jim Knowles had talked about this a little with having so many veteran players that you could make different game plans. You don't have to just be pigeonholed into one thing week after week. Does it feel when you get in there and you guys start game planning like they are very different for every opponent for you guys at this point?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that. I think they keep it simple enough where guys aren't like confused when we're doing. I mean, it might like look like that for like the quarterback. Like we might be giving them different looks and things like that. But I don't think it's overcomplicated at all. I mean, that might just be because we got a veteran defense as well, so it could be a little bit biased. But that's kind of the way it feels. It doesn't feel overly complicated or anything like that.
We'll go to Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Sonny, how do you think it's helped you guys to have Caleb Downs drop down more in the box late in the season? Doing that seems like more. How does that help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think both our safeties have done a really good job, dropping down in the box and being able to come down fast and run support. I mean, I think when you see guys coming from 12 yards and they're making tackles for 2 yards gains, that's pretty impressive. I mean, you saw Lathan last game come from the weak side boundary hash, about 10, 12 yards deep, come down, hit the dude at 2 yards, and like almost knock him out. So, I mean, both our safeties they're super impressive in the run game. So it definitely helps with the defense. Usually when you're dropping the safety in, usually those are 4-yard runs, 5-yard runs, and they're stopping for 2-yard runs.
We'll go to Jeremy Birmingham, the Podcast.
Sonny, how much has the defense structurally changed since the Oregon game in Eugene? Or is it more what Austin talked about, you guys just being more veteran and knowing the defense better? Or has there been fundamental changes that have been made? Because it looks a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been some changes, but I think a lot of it's been a mentality of trying to just be more aggressive, and we're just trying to just have an aggressive mindset. I think you've seen that when it showed up on tape with the pressures, the TFLs, and things like that. And I think we've gotten a lot better since the beginning of the year, and we kind of improved on the issues that's shown up each week because the issues are always there. and I think we've improved on those really well, and obviously we look like a completely different team now.
Have you guys seen the difference, or sort of nice, but even from Ryan Day, like, has he been a different type of leader?
I think he's been a great leader the whole year. And I think after that team of North loss, we kind of hunkered down and say like, hey, we're gonna get up and we're gonna start swinging, and we're gonna keep swinging as hard as we can, and see what happens at the end of the game. And I think that's what we've been doing the past 2 games, and it's worked out pretty well.
Going up next to Mick Walker, Letterman Row.
Sonny, you mentioned a great tight end earlier. What stands out to you about Gunnar Helm, and how do you kind of take out a guy that's become such a focal point for their offense?
I think he runs great routes. He has good hands. I think they set up some really nice plays for him. Like you see some of those plays where he kind of sneaks out of the protection and comes out wide open. I think the biggest thing that stands out is probably the routes and the hands. He's super impressive for a tight end. You know, obviously you always be aware of where he's at on the field, and there's going to be some explosive plays set up for him.
Any other questions here locally? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Tim May, Letterman Row.
I'm sorry, didn't interrupt you, Jared. Quinn Ewers in a nutshell, how would you describe him to someone? Because he seems even more effective when he kind of gets out of the pocket or moves around and stuff. Sonny, what do you see when you think of him?
I would say the capability of like early on in the game, you know, him getting his routine, like some of those routine throws. They run the ball, then it's play action shot, 50 yards downfield, things like that. I think he does a super good job of that. Being able to sell the play action, pull the safeties up, and then hit you downfield with a 60-yard bomb, thing like that. So I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me on film. He's a super talented quarterback, super talented arm talent. He can get the ball out in many different ways. But yeah, that's probably how I put it in a nutshell. He's just a super talented player. I mean, he can make any throw on the field. Like you said, he can move around a little bit. I don't think people respect that enough. His legs, he can move around and extend the plays and hurt you downfield.
Is that really odd? The guy used to be in this building at least for 4 or 5 months.
I wasn't really here with him, but
yeah,
I don't think it's really odd. We played some former players before, but obviously he's a talented player. I think a lot of guys have a lot of respect for him, so it's just gonna be a good matchup. Excited for it.
We'll go to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I don't know when we'll talk to you next. I'll ask you now. I'm sure it's the last thing you're on your mind when we talk about it. Do you have any idea what you can do about next year? I mean, you obviously can go to the NFL. Do you have any thoughts on that right now?
No, I haven't thought about it at all. Just worried about winning.
Scotty, that's it from Columbus. For Sonny Styles, any more on your end?
No more on our end. Thank you, Sonny.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. So, Scotty, we're just rounding guys up. I'll have someone here momentarily.
Thank you, Jerry.
My computer does not turn shot.
Really? That sucks. Huh. Have you tried like different?
Wow. I mean, I've tried 10 different outlets.
Oh. Yeah. That's weird. Charged on mine.
Okay, Scotty, we're going to bring up Luke Montgomery, an offensive guard. Once again,
Luke Montgomery. I'll go ahead and start things here in Columbus.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
All right, we'll open up the floor for Luke over here to the right. Adam King, WBNS. Luke, how's the nose?
It's good. Yeah, I meant to say busted. I didn't mean to say break. So
Okay.
it's good. It's one of the next ones. So.
Is that the, was it,
I mean, I don't know. It's just bruised up. It's just my helmet. Every time I hit someone, it just like comes down my face like that, bruises it up. So it's been busted for a long time. So I'm gotten it fixed.
Made for some cool pictures. After the game, I saw you and Don in reactions kind of share a moment where he said you've got a lot more and you keep going.
Yeah.
When you have the support of the offensive line like that, what does that do for you?
It means the world. Just speak upon like just being confident out there and playing the game. That guy's been in a whirlwind this year. So have we all with just what's happened on our offensive line and stuff like that. So to have someone in your back pocket like that, that's give you the confidence to go out there and play like you have, and it's a lot of fun.
Go over to the right, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Luke, do you feel more confident, having a couple of games, a couple of series of snaps under your belt now? How much more confident do you feel going into this Texas game as compared to Oregon or Texas?
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that. I've really felt the same the whole time. I don't really blink when I've gotten out there and gotten an opportunity. I think just the preparation the coaches have given us, like over these last couple of weeks going into games, like just that gives you confidence on itself.
Go all the way to the back, Mark Coons, BSCN.
Luke, we hear a lot about how this team is fighting to play one more week together. Is this team closer than last year's teams and teams in the past?
For the ones, the two I've been on, I would say this one's definitely the closest as a team. Like we've all been around each other. I think just the ups and downs this year. It's been a whirlwind, like I said, and we just continue to get closer and closer through every game. And obviously we don't want it to end, so we have an opportunity and a chance for one more game to play, and we're going to go out and give it our all, and hopefully that's enough to get us to the next one.
Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Luke, obviously Will's been the leader of this group since he got here, but
Yeah.
what can you say, or where have you seen him grow or his leadership take a step just in this playoffs? It seems like he's taking a lot of stuff to the next level.
Yeah, I think his leadership's been tremendous all year. I mean, he's kind of a guy that you kind of just get to know like right out of the gate. He's very energetic, very positive all the time, and obviously talks a lot, very social like I am. So, yeah, he's awesome. I think Coach Day does a great job with an analogy of just like it gets more intense. Like the more playoff wins you get, like just it ramps up. So obviously, leadership obviously ramps up as well as that intensity goes.
How has Will's intensity fed into everybody else?
Yeah, I really think it's not even just Will. I just think it's us having an opportunity to play one more game, like Mark said. I mean, we have an opportunity. We don't want it to end.
We'll go to Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
What makes Texas's defensive front unique in the initial film that you watched? How challenging is it for an inexperienced group of offensive line to play together?
Well, I think first of all we're going into their territory in Dallas, so it's just going to be loud. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's an SEC team. It's not an SEC team in the way, and they got a lot of great players up front, and they're kind of banking on you guys losing your one-on-ones and stuff like that. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to go and show how confident we are to go and play a bowl.
Luke, we're going to have a couple Zoom questions on
yeah.
from Texas or around the world. Scotty, take her away.
Yes, sir. We have our first question coming from Stephen Means. Stephen, go ahead.
Steven, you in here?
I'm doing some family stuff. Sorry. Luke, obviously with these being your first real meaningful snaps that you got to get the last two games, what's been the benefit of being able to rotate with someone in terms of, in comparison to having to play a heavy load the last two games? For you, the benefit of
Yeah, I think obviously now if I had to play a full game, I'd obviously be able to. I think I'd be able to from day one just because of all the stuff we're doing here. I'd stay in shape. I think for not playing for 2.5 years since high school, I think the 30th whatever snaps I played was a great amount, and obviously it just enhances as the game goes on.
Your next question is going to come from Stefan from Cleveland.com.
Hey Luke, I guess kind of to follow up on that, just how much has it helped you to have, Austin and Tegra there kind of in that rotation to, lean on and talk to between series and things along those lines?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. I think obviously they start the game with the first series or two, and I get to ask them questions on like what they're like, what their moves are, what are they doing up front, are they doing anything different that when we see it on film and stuff like that.
Your next question is going to come from Kurt Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Kurt, go ahead.
Hey Luke, good to see you. Piggyback on the defensive line question, anybody jump out at you, and who exactly will you be going up against?
Yeah, I think they're all tremendous athletes. I'm a ton of respect to Texas and what they've done this year. It was a lot of fun watching them on film. They have a great defense. I think all the defensive linemen are great players. Obviously, specifically speaking, the interior guys are what we going up against. I think they're all really good. They have different moves and bring different things to the table, so we got to be ready for that.
Do you think they've kind of been a pass first kind of team and struggled some with the run? Do you feel like y'all are or not?
No, I think everyone's the same. I think, we'll see what happens in this game. Obviously, we're pretty new to the game plan here, but we have a big practice today, and that's what we're really focused on. And obviously, that time will come to the game.
All right, we're going to take two more from Zoom and then turn it back to Columbus. Our next one is going to come from Michael Cohen. Michael, go ahead.
Hey Luke, question for you. When we spoke to Ryan Day on Friday, he mentioned that at this time of the year he's able to focus even more on the X's and O's and less on some of the other like CEO kind of stuff that head coaches have to do in college football. And I was wondering from your perspective, where have you seen that show up the most in the way that the offense has played the last 2 weeks?
Well, I think it just goes, what you said right out of the gate, I think we have more time. Obviously school's starting back up, but we haven't had school for a couple of weeks, and that gives us more time to walk through, more time to have even more reps than we usually have. I thought Coach Bailey said going into that Oregon game, we had 970-something reps in that week leading up to the game and stuff like that. And that's not just practice, that's walkthroughs, that's more walkthroughs and stuff like that. So obviously when you have the opportunity to have more time to put in your game plan, it's going to go to show.
Okay, our final question for Luke from Zoom is going to come from Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Luke, you started your career here at tackle, now you're playing guard. To see what Donovan's done moving from guard to tackle, is how impressive you've been with this transition.
He's a tremendous athlete, guys. I know he played tackle in high school, and it's a lot different coming here, but for him to do that, obviously just speaks more volumes of who he is as a person. I know that he wanted to be an All-American at guard and stuff like that, and he still got that this year. But he's done a tremendous job going from guard to tackle, and how many people can do that?
Jerry, over to you.
Okay, we got time for just a few more questions. We'll go to Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Luke, picking up on the Donovan Jackson thing, one play in particular just caught my eye, man. It was the long pass to Jeremiah Smith for a second touchdown, but Donovan looked like a boxing match with Jordan Burch. Physically and stuff. What does he bring from that realm of just?
I'd probably just point you to Donovan Jackson. He's tremendous at all levels. You can get to the second level. He's fast. He's very strong, obviously, and he can play all 5 positions. And obviously, if I was an NFL guy, I don't know. 100%. Yeah, he gives us all confidence, even more confidence than we already have, and he's a lot of fun. Obviously, he's been here and done it for a long time, and we're doing this for him, so it's a lot of fun.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Luke, obviously you don't know what an NFL season feels like, but does this feel like a long season at this point?
Yeah. It makes you learn a lot about your body and what recovery really means and what it does for you over time and stuff like that. And obviously, high school we played 10 games, and Finley, we weren't very great, so we didn't get to play much past 10, 11 games. So. But the first season here for me was a whirlwind for sure. The second season I kind of found my comfort zone and found what I needed to do to get my body right for going this long into the season.
Compared to last year, when you have a real bowl, natural bowl, and you have that gap, is it still almost like regular season? You're on to the next.
Yeah.
To the two.
100%. Yeah, and it's better than regular season in my opinion, obviously, because we have more time to game plan and prep. Get a couple extra days, and whatever we can find that inch in this game is what we're going to do. And I don't care how long we're in this facility, but we're going to be here as long as we can to figure out what we need to do.
Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Luke, you kind of did have to wait a little while to get this opportunity, and Austin, got in there at the beginning of the season and different things. Just did you always just maintain that patience and belief that your time was going to come, and obviously this is the beginning of what could be a great future for you at Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, we have a tremendous defense here. I'll start it off saying that. Like, for me, being able to play them every day, I just treat it like a game. Maybe I didn't get the reps on Saturday, but my Tuesday and Wednesday practices in full contact was my game, and I needed to really enhance that as much as I could to be able to be ready for this moment.
Great. Folks, we good if I end it right there because we're a little over time, and I've got Caleb waiting here. Luke, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Scotty, in Texas, we're going to go next to safety Caleb Down.
What kind of challenges the shifts in motions involved
The OC really does a great job of providing a lot of eye candy for the defense, and all the shifts and motions, you have to make sure you're on the same page in order to play a really sound, complete game, and they've done a great job this year, and it's let them get to this point.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Hey, look, it seems like Jordan Hancock maybe doesn't get enough of the recognition that he deserves. How many ways does he impact this defense and even impact what you can do, whether getting a block or as well?
He's a tremendous player. He has a lot of versatility, and you can't really put a price on that just because you can ask him to do so many things. And even in the game, like, there'll be plays where, like, I'll feel like we need to change the coverage, and I'll tell him, okay, you play this different position, which he hasn't done, but he makes it work. So he's a tremendous player, and he's going to be a really good talent in the NFL.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
I asked you after the game about this a little bit, but you're playing more close to the box now. Was that something that you had suggested, or what came to you, and how much do you like it? How much more impactful do you see there?
It wasn't something that I suggested. The coaches, they've done that themselves. So, I mean, I feel like I can play anywhere on the field, and I'm just glad to be able to make plays.
And how do you feel like you're more impactful being closer to the line of scrimmage or not?
I feel like it's either way. I feel like if you have me in the post, I can make plays. Have me in man, I can make plays. Have me in the box, I can make plays. So I don't.
Caleb, what's it like seeing the offense operate like it has in the first two playoff games early from your perspective, and then what does that do for a defense throughout the game?
I've been ecstatic watching them play. It's been very eventful on the sideline, just seeing them play at a really high level and seeing everybody succeed. So, I mean, it's a great feeling. And then as a defense, it allows you to really know, like, okay, we got both sides of the ball working right now. We're playing at a high level.
Scotty, we'll let you take it with some Zoom questions there.
Thank you, Jared. First question is going to come from Andy Anders. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah. Another question about playing in the box. I just wanted to draw on that specifically. Obviously you said you make plays wherever you're at on the field, but what about playing kind of at that maybe 12-yard depth in the middle maybe allows you to see and read and react to things and flow sideline to sideline when you're in that position?
I mean, I feel like I'm comfortable at that position, and it allows me to be able to read the line and read the quarterback and be able to get in the run game and play the pass. So I feel like that's a good spot for me, but I feel like I'm versatile enough to move around.
This question is going to come from Danny Davis. Danny, go ahead.
Hey Caleb, appreciate the time. Since you guys are both dartboard finalists, I'm wondering, do you have a relationship with No Jade at all? And what are your thoughts on his game?
He's a tremendous player. He's played really well this year. Watching his film, he's made a lot of plays, and they do a really good job on their defense. But I don't know him personally.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Donovan Bridgeport. Donovan, go ahead. I think he withdrew his question. We will go to Kurt Bowles.
Hey Caleb, I was going to ask you about the Michigan thing. Texas obviously went up there in Ann Arbor and beat them, and and y'all had your issues with them. Do you have any stock in that? Or was that Texas-Michigan game just so long ago it doesn't matter at all?
I mean, at this point in the season, it's win or go home, so really whatever happens in the past doesn't have any stock or anything. Doesn't mean anything, so we have to play on Friday, and that's really all that matters.
We're gonna take two more from Zoom before turning it back. Our first one's gonna come from Steven from Cleveland.com. Go ahead. Stephon, I'm sorry.
Hey Caleb, we've seen, you were talking about the Ohio State offense, the success that they've had. Obviously Jeremiah's been a big part of that. What's it been like this year going against him in practice? And after doing that, does it surprise you at all to see him having the success he's had as a freshman?
No, it doesn't bring any surprises. It was pretty easy to see the talent that he has and the blessings that God has put on his plate. But it's always a challenge going against Jeremiah and other receivers and Mecca and Carnell in practice, and even guys like Brandon and his freshman rivals. They do a great job bringing blitz for the defense and create a lot of obstacles.
Our final question from Zoom is gonna come from Dan Hope. Go ahead, Dan.
Caleb, Quinn had a lot of success against you guys when you played him at Alabama last year. Just what do you remember from going up against him last year, and what can you learn from that game?
Really smart quarterback, knows how to operate their offense, puts the ball in the right places, and then Coach Sarkisian does a great job putting him in positions to win.
All right, back in
Gary, back to you.
Yep, thank you. Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Caleb, JT and Jack playing opposite sides. Are they as opposite off the field as they are on in terms of personality and just the people they are?
They're opposites, but they're also like they come from different sides of the country, so they're different people for sure. But they're both really great people, really great men. So I respect both of them.
If you had to describe the personalities, how would you do that?
I'm not gonna do that. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do that.
We'll go to Austin Ward, the podcast.
Throughout the season, we always see you on Wednesday nights. You're late from the meeting to go off the field. Are the things that you're working on after practice always the same? Is it a routine? What are the things that you're hoping to get out of those extra moments after practice?
It's a routine, pretty much the keys that we need to go into the game with, and then also it changes week to week based on what our jobs are going to put us into doing. So every week we go through the same things, and then we add certain things that we do for what the team that we play is going to ask us to accomplish.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I got one here.
Oh, okay. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Caleb, when Texas uses play action and they use play action favorite, what do they do well in those spots and what they do off that those moments between?
They do a really good job with eye candy, and it creates a lot of challenges for defense in order to see if it's run or pass, and see because that's when they're going to take their shots too as well. So really just having great eye discipline, seeing the line and seeing what he's telling us. So that's what it does.
Deep right, Big Walker, Letterman Row.
Caleb, you guys had a pretty good game plan for Tyler Warren when you guys played him. You guys have another Texas has a good tight end and Gunnar Helm. What are you guys going to have to do to limit him, and what do you think about his game?
He's a really good player. He makes a lot of plays, and has a lot of receiving yards this year. So really just do the same thing we've done all year, just be disciplined in our responsibilities, and if you're on them, you got to make the play when it comes.
Right in front of him, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
When you look at their receivers as kind of a whole, they spread the ball around. It seems like a lot. What stands out about the way that they can spread the ball around those guys?
A lot of really good athletes. I played with Isaiah Bond last year. He was a really great receiver, a lot of speed, and then all the receivers have made a lot of plays. So, I mean, everybody has to be on their P's and Q's if we're going to stop them and kind of do a really good job.
Front row here, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Caleb, you moved up here, I don't have to tell you when you moved, but basically a year ago. And so it's a little bit of a leap of faith because you know how many athletes are on this team, good athletes and stuff. But when did you really feel this defense come into its own? And then past that, man, watching you in the Rose Bowl, your recognition of what was coming seemed to be on point. Did it feel like that? I mean, you personally.
I think the defense has played really well throughout the season. I think we've had games where we played better and games where we haven't put it all together, but I think that's how all defenses are. So I can't say there's a certain moment where I think we put it together.
Yeah.
But what was the second part of your
Well,
question?
in other words, you seemed really on point against Oregon about recognizing what was coming. I mean, you were really active out there, directing and things like that. Did it feel like that? I guess.
I feel like, as Luke said earlier, the preparation that we put in goes into that, and just feeling comfortable in what we're doing, comfortable in what we're seeing with the other team. I feel like that allows us to play fast, and me and Lathan to communicate to everybody else.
Did I miss anyone for questions here? Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Caleb, you came to Ohio State to play for national championship, and there were a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. Just to be in this position, the last 4 teams still alive, just you feel validated by that, and did you always have faith that this is how it was going to turn out?
I came to Ohio State to become a better player and to help the team be as good as it can be, not to win a national championship. Not like that wasn't the only goal for me coming here. Really just wanted to be in the team and be with the brotherhood. But it's a great feeling being in the Final Four and being with the team and everything that comes with that. But it's a blessing to be here.
And one final question, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
I did want to follow up back the game. You said when they scored their first and second touchdown, really high on the sideline. What was your message to the team? And that's a good offense. They're going to score. Why were you so high?
Really just because we didn't execute, which let them score. So we've done that a lot, which is something we can't do in these big games, in these games where it's win or go home. So we got to make the plays when they come, and we got to have competitive excellence, as Coach Dave says, make the play when the numbers call.
Caleb, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
All right, Scotty and company and
over here to the right, Adam King, WBNS.
What do you think you bring to this passing game? I mean, obviously people are going to focus in on Jeremiah, so to have you, what do you hope to bring? What do you think you bring?
Yeah, I just think when you look at our offense as a whole, there's just a lot of components that you have to respect, just all across the field. And just spacing, when it comes to X's and O's, just spacing out the field, being able to cover all 5 guys down the field is kind of hard, including our running back as well. And so I think there's a lot of things that you have to respect in offense. We can run the ball, we can throw it down the field to Jeremiah, we can hit a check down to me or to a running back. I just think it's the limitless potential that we have and the amount of different things that we can do is where I would see it being a big weapon in our offense.
Over here to the left, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, G, first play out of the box, they go to you down the sideline and hurdle the guy and everything. Just were you the primary receiver on the first play? It feels like a great call to go, not necessarily to Jeremiah or Mecca or even hand off. Just go through that play, like what was going on there?
Yeah, I think the intention behind that was to set the tone early. And kind of almost set a message that we're not here to play conservative offense, that we're going to come right after you guys from the first play, and we'll be after you guys all 4 quarters. And so whenever you start a game like that, I'm a believer if you're I don't condone street fighting, but if you're in a street fight, he who throws the first punch will likely comes out the win. So our mindset going into that was throw the first punch, and I think we did that to open the game with a gain of 30. And then just the emotion on the sideline, the emotion that I try to bring after that play for a defense that's just kind of demoralizing. Coming right off the heels, I'm sure the coaches and the players, they had a huge pep talk and speeches going into the game, and they're excited and they're raw-run that we're going to kill these guys, and to open up the play and to give up a 30-yard game like that, and then to see our whole sideline erupt, that has to be demoralizing for defense.
Yeah, when Jeremiah scores, there's a picture of you and he kind of meeting face to face in the end zone. Just what is that feeling like? You guys just in 1 minute just put it right on.
Yeah, I feel very confident abilities to block in space and with a ball carrier like him. as dynamic of a player he is. I think when he's running behind me, if you look on that play, he's kind of running right behind me there, and so it was just a really exciting moment. I think hopefully we can continue to do that, those kind of things, and so yeah, it was a really exciting moment.
Over here to the right, Kellyanne Snitz, WSYX.
Gene, you mentioned you guys have come out swinging back-to-back fast starts. The offense is just firing all cylinders. What's been the difference in preparation leading up to the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't like to say that there's been anything dramatically different than maybe even the first time we played them. But the goal is to, week by week, you got to upgrade. You know, that's the big motto that we have on this team, that you have to upgrade week by week. That the team that you were last week or the team that you were in week 5 just isn't good enough to compete in the college football playoffs. And so our mindset is to get better and better and better. Call it what it is. Last time we played them, we fell up short. But, you know, here we are, X amount of weeks later, we were able to see who upgraded more, and it looked like it was the Buckeyes. And so the goal is just to continue to upgrade every single week, and you'll look back and see how far along you came.
Austin Warren, podcast.
Do you go back to that street fight and throw the first punch, the fact that the coaching staff trusted you to do that? We all know how much work has gone into your career and getting to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, is it wrong of us to say that might mean a little something more, that you are the person they wanted to start the game with?
I would not necessarily. I mean, in my opinion, not necessarily. I think that the coaches have great trust in all of us that are out there. I think if they didn't have great trust in us, I don't think I would be out there. Or I don't think, you know, certain guys would be out there if they weren't trusted. And so I think the job of the coaches is to draw and put us in positions to be successful. And I'm just a true believer that our coaches do a really good job at that. And so I don't really ask questions on what they tell us to do. I go and I do my job at the highest level, and I try to execute it. And so, yeah, I think it's just my job when the ball comes my way to make good things happen. And, you know, you look forward with hopes that it will continue to keep coming your way.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, you have to go against JT and Jack. Seems like they just keep improving. What's it like going against them? I say Tuesdays. Have you seen that improvement? How much of a challenge and help it is?
Yeah, no, those are two electrifying players. I don't think, you know, just being real, I don't think I've seen any defensive ends to their caliber on an opposing team yet this far. And so when you get to go against that on game day, you're going to have confidence in where you're at. And so I just feel like those guys have given me a great amount of confidence going against those guys all throughout camp, throughout the entire season. Sometimes when you get to the game, it's like, dang, I was going against better at practice. And so that's the whole goal, right? Iron and sharpening iron. We believe one man will sharpen another. And so that's the goal of why we practice so hard and why we do the things we do, even at this point of the year, why we practice so hard still, is to give ourselves that.
And what are these dudes like off the field? They play opposite on the field. They seem like they're pretty different off the field.
Who, Jack and JT?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're great guys. I think, yeah, there's a bunch, I mean, from top to bottom on our team, there's just a bunch of great characters on our team, you know, all throughout. I mean, but when you get on that field, they go into a mode where they're not to be messed with. And so, yeah, you've got to be on the team.
Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Gee, I think it's about a month ago I asked Will where his confidence in the thrower has grown. He said it's been night and day from January to where he is now.
Yeah.
When he is on time, his footwork right like he has in the last 2 weeks, how much more confidence does that feed into the whole offense, knowing he's in sync with receivers? How much does that feed after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same way I'd answer that question is how I'd answer that with any player on offense, whether that's Will at quarterback or our offensive line or Travion and Quinshawn at running back or myself at tight end or the receiving corps or special teams. You know, it's just, I think our goal is to, we preach this all week and all year long, is to be at competitive excellence and to make the play when your number is called. And so the more times you're able to do that, the more often you're going to be successful as a team. We have a goal around here to grade out a champion at 80% on the game. And so the more times that you can look back and at the end of a game, you can come in here on a Sunday or the day following the game, you graded out a champion. That's your job, to take care of your 111. And so obviously, yes, of course, when we have Will, that when he's firing, it's ultimately going to help our whole team. But that's the kind of the mindset that we have for everybody, is that we all need to be doing our part and doing our job. And ultimately, we have the guys, we have the talent. And so you look up at the scoreboard and like where you're at.
Scotty, we'll let you have a couple of Zoom questions if you have them there.
Yes, sir. Our first question is going to come from Michael Cohen. Michael, go ahead.
G, when it comes to trying to throw that first punch early in games, there's different ways you could try and do it. To do so vertically in the passing game, aggressively, like where does that come from? Is that a Coach Day message, a Coach Kelly message, somewhere else, just to attack in that way in particular, deep down the field repeatedly?
Yeah, I think that's just our entire identity as an offense. I think, yeah, definitely Coach Day, Coach Kelly, they kind of installed that mindset is that we're not going to hold back. We're not going to hold back. We're going to come after them. And sometimes coming after coming after a defense doesn't always look like taking a 50-yard, 60-yard shot down the field. Sometimes that's just we're going to run the ball right at you. And so I think that's just kind of the mindset behind it, is that we're going to come right after you guys, despite how it looks. It might be a vertical throw, or it might be running in between the tackles. But the whole message stays the same: is that we're going to be dominant. We're going to be the proactive ones, and we're going to throw the first punch.
Next one's going to come from Dan Hope. Dan, go ahead.
G, you mentioned that you guys need to upgrade every week. How do you guys make sure you keep that same edge you've had, you don't get complacent when you've played as well as you have the last 2 games?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's job in here, and I think a special emphasis on our coaching staff, that they have a responsibility to make sure from top to bottom that this thing stays like a well-ran, oiled machine. And I think they do a great job at that. One thing that they don't allow us to do around here is get complacent or to be comfortable with wins. Although, Coach Day does a great job. He tells us all the time, to whenever we win these games, he says, enjoy this win for 24 hours. Be able to feel it. It's important to celebrate your victories. But when you come back in here 24 hours later, we're on to the next week. It's too competitive out here. Playing at Ohio State, you can't lose football games. And so the whole goal is to celebrate the victory, but, get your head down and get right back to work. Whether you win or you lose or whatever it looked like last week, to get your head back down and get back to work and show up for Tuesday practice and get ready to roll again.
Our final one from Zoom is going to come from Kirk Bowles. Kirk, go ahead.
Hey, G, I don't know if you even watched the Texas game or went to their tape, but they obviously blew a 16-point lead. And the way you guys are riding high brand of football today.
No, I wouldn't say that we find our confidence in anything that an opponent would do. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we all of our confidence and all of our motivation comes internally. We don't look at an opponent and say, they blew a 16-point lead, or so we're going to give us more confidence that how much more can we do, or we're not going to look at a team that maybe just blew out another team and maybe be a little bit more timid because this is going to be a good team. I think a lot of our motivation and a lot of our drive comes from what happens internally in this building. I don't care what anyone says. You can show up before games. You can take your shirt off. You can try to flex your muscles and look however you want to look. But when you cut on the tape, ultimately what you put in this week and throughout the week of preparation and what you did this whole entire year is what's going to show up on Saturdays. The raw stuff, that's all meaningless. What really is important is what did you do that week to prepare to be ready for competitive excellence on Saturday. And so that's the mission around here, is to make sure we're doing our due diligence, we're putting the work in necessary to show up on Saturday to be confident and dominant.
We have time for a few more questions here locally. Nicole Sheeran, WBNS.
Gee, what's it going to be like going up against Quinn Ewers, and what was your relationship like with him this year?
Yeah, I briefly met. It was good having him here. He was definitely a cool guy. He wasn't here long enough for him and I to be very close. But obviously, when you line up on the other side of the field, there's no friendships in that moment. We're there to win a game, and so who's that quarterback? And I don't think that's something that we're going to be thinking about. But obviously, after the game, or it's going to be exciting. It's exciting to play against someone that you know. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter who's in their uniform. Our goal is to come after them regardless of who they are.
Over to the left, Noah Weisskopf, the Lantern.
How have you seen Will change both on the field and off the field from the moment you first met him?
Yeah, Will has, continuously became more of a confident leader. He's somebody that I've seen take tremendous strides in his faith, in his servant leadership, and it's just been comfortable and confident. And this is all just with 1 year. I mean, I can only imagine if he were to have 2 years here and what he would be able to accomplish. But it's just been amazing to be around him. He's going to be one of my better friends on this team. And, I'm assuming I'm speaking off all of Buckeye Nation that we're excited to have him.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
You and everyone in your class have had ups and downs in previous years. You fallen short of your goals. I know you're focused on the moment, but are you guys savoring this? That maybe the disappointments have made this even more special, even within this year?
Yeah. I write on my eye black every game, Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And I'm just a firm believer that everything that we have been through as a team, all the hurt, all the hardship, all the tears, all the shame, everything we've been through has ultimately led us to where we are today. And I have confidence in that. And that's why I'm not a big believer in getting too high or getting too low. When I lose games, I try to stay, as even kill as possible. Same way when we win games, because I ultimately just have the faith and the ability to know that the Lord is working all of these things together to make us better. So these moments, I think, through hardship, I believe that makes people closer. And so I think as a result of the things that we have been through, you're looking at a very tight-knit team. And so I'm just excited for what the future holds for us.
You used the word shame.
Yeah.
Like losing a game is not a crime. It's just a disappointment.
Yeah.
But is that the kind of pressure that you guys feel here? And when you lose, it's not just the loss, it's shame?
It's important right here. It's not, especially at the Ohio State University, from the time that you sign up here, you know exactly what you're getting into. Our coaching staff does a great job of making sure when it's time, after you go through a whole spring, summer, and off season, that by the time you get to game one, you know exactly to even show yourself in public because of the loss that you've had. But again, my point being is that despite the things that we have been through, I'm a firm believer that there has to be a certain amount of faith, that you have trust that all of these things are working for moments like this. And, even in, I don't know how this might sound, but even in my personal life, regardless of even what happens in the future, from today moving forward, I will continue to keep the faith that it's working for my good. Whether it's making me a better father one day in the future, a better husband one day in the future, however that may look, I believe and have the faith that the Lord is working all things together for the good of those who love Him.
Couple more questions. Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Yeah, you're starting to go down that road. I was just going to ask you about it anyway, because the transformation in you as a person is so, I think, obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine yourself 3 years ago being the person you are now, and now leaving Ohio State whenever it happens, whether it's 1 week or 3 weeks from now? Like, with the legacy that you're leaving here, is it something that you would have ever imagined about yourself?
No, man. No. I think what has taken place in my life and the lives of other people on this team, and I know that I'm here to talk about football, but it's a true testament of the Lord that I serve. He's taken my heart and He's made me new. His word promises that He'll take your heart of stone and make it a heart of flesh, and that He will soften you and making you more into His image when you take on your cross and know Him. And I think that's exactly what has taken place in my life. And just when I look back on my journey, the things that I've been through, even that question that you just asked me kind of made me a little emotional, just because when you said that, for whatever reason, I just thought back to some years ago when I headbutted that guy from T.O. North, and just the amount of public ridicule that I received from that, and the anger that I received in that, and that's just one thing that was blown up big. But there were other things that were going on that maybe that was a behavior pattern that maybe I had, and I just look at what the Lord has done in my life, and not just myself, but other guys on this team. It's just been amazing, to say the least. And I'm able to stand here confident and say the things that I do because of the revelation that He has given me, that He is true, and that no matter what happens on this field, that there's a place that I can call home with a relationship with Him.
I just think it's an interesting juxtaposition of you were on the way to being like the bad example, right? Like, here's a guy with all this opportunity and took this path, and you took it and changed it, and I just think it's fascinating.
No.
But we don't get to talk to you often, so I just,
No.
And also, were you suggesting that Will's going to apply for a 6th year?
No, not at all. No, man. No, man. But you're absolutely right. And again, I say it again, and I emphasize it, that it's just a true testament of Christ. And I just encourage everybody that's even whether in the room or watching it, that if you may feel like you're that prodigal, you're that one who's felt like you strayed away too far, and there's no way that a Lord can forgive, this Lord that you're talking about can forgive the things that I've done. I just want to encourage you that there's no sin that you've committed that can outweigh His justice and outweigh His grace that He has for you and the love that He has for you. And so I think it was intentional, the things that I went through to get to where I am now, to maybe shine that light on somebody else.
Two more from Columbus here. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Texas's pass defense typically really good, limiting big plays and getting interceptions. What has stood out about that back end?
Yeah, I think just for the couple of days I've had to watch them on film, I think top to bottom they look like a pretty good team. It looks like they do a good job all the way around. They look good, but these are the moments that you live for. These are the moments that the reasons why you come here to Ohio State. We preach all the time to, like, when you come here, you play for games where you play against someone. We call these matchup games where you're almost playing against yourself. And when you're playing against yourself, that means you're not just going to be bigger, you're not just going to be stronger, you're not just going to be faster. And so the question comes down to, well, if I'm not bigger and stronger or faster and we kind of look the same, then what's going to make me win? And I think ultimately the answer to that question is all the intangible things that you work on throughout the season, the things that kind of you can't really see on the outside, the grit that you may have in your heart, the distance that you're willing to go to win the game, the skill that you have acquired throughout the season. All of the intangible things are going to be on display this weekend, and we'll see either them or ourselves who has put more into the intangibles to win these kind of games.
And final question is Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, as you've been speaking here, I'm just thinking of other teams I've covered in the past, really good teams and stuff. I had one guy one time tell me there was almost like a hum in the background when you're in this building and stuff, of like work being done and things like that. And you have a feel for the spiritual aspect of this team also and stuff. Do you feel that special hum, or whatever you want to call it, about this team at this moment?
Without a doubt. I said it a few times in the interview post game, and I'll say it again. There was a moment that we were able to share coming off of that loss against Team of North. We had a player-led meeting where we were able to hash out some of the differences, what we think is going wrong. It was just a moment to be very vulnerable with each other as brothers. And there was some frustration that was going on, and ultimately at the end of it, in this room actually, we stood in here, all 100-plus guys, and we locked in arms, we put our arms around each other. Actually, when you look around in that moment, there was actually a few guys that were even tearing up just because of the powerful moment that it was, and we were able to pray together. And I think ever since that moment moving forward, I wouldn't even say it's just from that moment. I kind of knew all along, but I believe that there's something very special about this team. And I think people are getting ready to witness the special ability that this team has. I've received many things like I miss real football players. I'm tired of these Christian athletes on the field. I miss the real gritty football players. And I think here moving forward.
You feel that in your heart too, that the toughest team finally wins these games?
Yes. I think it's an accumulation of a lot of things. Just being tough, having discipline, not getting dumb penalties, having great technique. Again, when you get in these matchup games, it's all the intangibles that you can't really see. I'm not just going to walk out in the field and just have confidence that I'm bigger than them and I'm stronger than them like we can in maybe some other games. That's just not how it works. And so it's going to come down to all the intangibles. Am I more disciplined? Am I not going to hold on this play? Am I going to make the catch when the ball comes to me? Am I going to uplift my teammates? Am I going to be positive, or am I going to be a cancer on this team? All those little things are all what goes into winning these kind of games. And like you mentioned, toughness. And so we hang our hat on that, and that's the goal, is to go out there and be tough and put all these things together and get a win down in Texas.
Keith, thank you very much.
All right, Scotty, and our folks in Texas, our next student athlete from Ohio State will be wide receiver Brandon Innes. Brandon?
All right, we'll open up the floor here in Columbus for questions for Brandon. Adam King, WBNS.
Brandon, what's it been like to watch yourself grow throughout this season and become a part of this offense and get ready to go when your numbers call?
It's been amazing so far. Just going through last year, the last game, and seeing where I was at to now, it's been amazing. Got to get with Coach Hartline every week, just to see everything I can do in offense and help them in any way. It's been amazing. And
Nicole Sheeran, WVNS.
Brandon, after the Rose Bowl win, there were multiple videos of you guys, calling Ryan the best coach in the nation, rallying around him. Just talk to me about how this team has rallied around your coaching. You're not afraid to show it.
Yeah, to me, everything I said in that video is still true in my heart. Coach Day's the best coach in the nation. I mean, you come in here, you see what the work he puts in. He's here all day, every day, and to have a guy like that, you want to play for him. And Coach Day is like no other coach I've ever had in my life, and I appreciate him for the opportunity.
I don't know how much time you have to get into this, but Emeka's value to the room, the leadership he shows, what has he meant to you? What does he mean to the whole group?
He means a lot to us. I mean, we come in because he's so smart. I mean, Emeka's probably the smartest football player I've ever been around. So all of our, me and JJ and Cornette, we still asking questions about certain things. And like even this past week in the game, there was a look I haven't seen yet because I haven't played a whole lot. And this being able to ask him on the sideline and him to give me a response right away is huge for us.
We'll go Tim May, let him in a row.
Yeah, following up on that, Brandon, you had a couple of huge plays against Penn State. You know what I mean? You didn't start the game. You understand what I'm saying? But what is it like knowing there could be a moment, the next snap or whatever, where you've got to deliver, et cetera? I mean, what is that like, waiting your turn but then taking advantage of it?
Yeah, we call it competitive excellence, making the play when your number's called. And I feel like in that moments right there, I made the play. And I just got to continue doing that whenever I get my opportunity to get in the game, make a huge block, whatever it is, just make the play when your number's called.
Is that depth, you think, what sets y'all apart to a certain, not just depth, but guys ready to play, for want of another term?
Yeah, if you see last game, it was kind of hot out there, so we haven't played a whole lot of heat in these past couple months. So we had some guys a little tired, so we had guys ready to go in, and that's just Coach Hartline developing his receivers and being ready for any moment.
Far left, Noah Weisskopf, the Lantern.
What impresses you most about Will, and just what's the confidence in you and knowing he's the one leading your team, leading the offense?
What impresses me most about Will is his leadership. Coming in from a guy from Kansas State, a transfer in year one, you wouldn't expect that guy to be a leader like how he is. I mean, he's an unbelievable leader, and we all lean on him. He runs his whole team, and he knows that. We'll go as far as he goes.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Brandon, we talked a little bit last week, just kind of you becoming one of the emotional leaders of this team. As you guys were walking off the field at halftime on Wednesday, I happened to be down there by the locker room. I was the only person taking photos of you guys down there, which is weird. But everyone looked super happy. You were up 34-8, and it looked like you guys were down by 26 points. Did you feel something different about the focus at that point of this team, or is it just an embodiment of what's going on right now? Because it seemed different.
I just think the job wasn't done. We had nothing to be excited about at the moment. We were excited during the game when we were making the plays, but at that time, at halftime, you go back to 0-0. They scored at the end of the half. You knew they got the ball back. The defense wasn't quite happy that they gave that touchdown at the end, and we knew they getting the ball back coming out, but we was excited because we knew the job wasn't done yet.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
You were a five-star guy, and that coming up. All these guys are really five-star guys. And then there's Jeremiah. It seemed like all of you guys,
I mean, I'm not sure. It's probably something you got to ask him, but Jeremiah's played with a lot of great guys throughout his career. He's seen a lot, all the talent you can see in the world. But I don't know if he's ever in awe. But I mean,
I'm saying, are you in awe?
Oh, am I? Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised at anything he does now. Like I've seen him since we were 9 years old. So anything he does, any one-hand catch, I've seen. I'm not surprised at anything he does.
When he was 9,
Yeah.
did you know this is something special even that made at 9?
Oh yeah. I mean, coaches were coming up to us complaining that we were 9 years old. Like, can we get their IDs and stuff like that? So I mean, there's definitely some footage we got to go find. But the plays we used to make when we were younger, just to see where he is now is amazing.
And yet it seems very unaffected by all of this learning.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I think how he was raised. He's very level-headed. He knows his goals and what he wants to get done in life, and this is just one step away for him.
Gonna throw it back to Texas for a couple questions on Zoom. Scotty?
Yes, sir. We're gonna start with Stefan from Cleveland.com. Go ahead.
Brandon, I want to go back to what you were talking about with Coach Day earlier. You know, whenever he talks about this team's success, he says all the credit goes to the players. It seems like the players think that he deserves some of the credit. How big, how influential has he been, you know, in the turnaround you guys have had these last few weeks?
He's been huge, man. Coming here after that 2-1 loss, you know, it was heartbreaking, of course. But we came in here, we had a leadership meeting, and he was in here. I mean, and then we had a team meeting after that. Hearing the stuff he had to say and we had to say, and going back and forth, we knew we would have his back no matter what. I mean, there's a lot of stuff said about him and his family and stuff like that, but in here we're a brotherhood and we're a family, and we gonna stand by him no matter what.
Our next question.
Starting here in your second year, but it seems like you really embraced the growth process. Just what's kind of that process been like for you of kind of embracing your role this season and continuing to develop?
Yeah, in life things doesn't go the way you exactly planned it to, and that just didn't happen. You know, things happened to Mecca last year that allowed him to come back, and that allowed me to learn more, and that's just how I see it. Make me a better football player for the future. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it.
3 more on Zoom. Next one's gonna come from Stephen Means. Go ahead.
Steven, but
I'm sorry.
yeah, you're good. Brandon, there are a lot of clips of you this year where you're super excited after a block and kind of showing your emotion there. What about blocking do you love so much as a receiver?
Just being able to hit another guy with all my power as hard as I can without getting any consequences. except if you hold, of course. But yeah, just bringing that power. I mean, I heard some of the defensive guys telling me yesterday, they were like, bro, I would hate to go against you. So knowing that from the defensive guys, so I know what the other defensive guys are thinking, like, just keep bringing it to them. They're not going to like the 4 quarters. That's my mindset.
Next question is going to come from Danny Davis. Danny, go ahead.
Hey, Brandon, what are your impressions of these Texas defensive backs and just kind of what you've seen from them on film so far?
Yeah, the last couple of days we watched them. They're a fast team. They don't give up any big plays downfield. They're aggressive, but I actually know some of the DBs they have that corner there. I played with them. I played with Malik Muhammad at SFE, so I know him a little bit. And yeah, but watching them, they're a fast team. They're physical. They're disciplined. But we just got to get the job done.
Do you have any Malik stories or any do you have any Malik stories or anything you remember about playing with him?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say them here. Yeah, we'll just keep that in.
Our final question is going to come from Kurt Bowles. Kurt, go ahead.
Hey, Brandon, one of the issues Texas has had in the second half of the year is finishing. And I wonder if you could speak to, and they had trouble obviously in the Peach Bowl, blew a 16-point lead. Can you talk about finishing and having a killer instinct? And you guys obviously seem to have that now.
Yeah, I think that started in the off-season training at fall camp. We always say go +2. That's if you're doing a 10-yard pro shuttle, you have to go +2 throughout the line, and that's just finishing as well. And then fall camp, we had these long 2.5-hour practices or whatnot, and then we came out and we had to do these finishers, we call them, and that's for games late in the year like this. And we, I think Coach Day did a great job preparing all of us for these moments, and yeah, we're ready to go.
We got time for just a couple more questions in Columbus so we can wrap up with our other 2 guys. Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Trivion's second touchdown run. It seemed like you took 2 players out of the play, first with your release and then with the guy you actually blocked. Is that how it's designed, or did you get lucky that the guy decided to take off inside on the release?
it's actually designed for me to block the safety and leave the corner one-on-one with the running back. But I was surprised that the corner actually came in so far in my release. I think he thought it was a pass. But I think he was the edge of the defense. If you go watch that play, but I don't know. I don't really know why he came in so far, but it helped out for us, and I made my block and straight on score.
Is there any lesson there for like even a young receiver watching that even if you know in the play you're not getting the ball, you're intended to block, but your release has to be on point, like as if you're going to go catch a pass?
Yeah, definitely. Every little detail matters in that type of plays. We were in a red zone there, so we say every yard matters. It's 2 yards. So the block I made is just a testament to Coach Hartline prepped me throughout the week to make that block. Yeah.
And final question, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Brandon, Will and someone called Deep Will lately, especially at the open game. What do you think is good for you guys for him in those plays?
A lot more confidence. I say throughout the year, we weren't always there as offense. We didn't quite know our identity, and now slowly but surely, I think we found that, and we're gonna keep on rolling. And he's made some great throws, and yeah.
I'm sorry, Brandon, I do have one more. Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Brandon, there have been opportunities for you, but the opportunity is coming sooner rather than later for you to be an every down player. Just what are the things you need to do in your game to take it to where it is now to be an every down guy?
I think there's a lot of things I can work on in my game. I would say continuing to be football smart, my IQ, just knowing what the defense is going to do before they do it. My routes always can get better. My hands always can get better. Staying on the juggling machine. Work ethic, keep on top of it. Don't get satisfied with anything I do, and don't get too big. Don't get too low. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. That's what they say.
You feel like a guy that the people follow. It seems like just in your mind, even as a second year guy, that you're kind of working toward being kind of a leadership type guy.
Yeah.
How important is that to have guys that will take that role?
Yeah, it's a great feeling, of course, to know guys are watching what you do and listen to what you do. But I just feel like we do that with a lot of players here, and not just myself, but the leadership we have on this team is like no other, and that's why we got so far, I think.
Brandon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Zeke Williams.
Thanks, Bobby. All right, we will open the floor for questions here in Columbus. Over to the left, Noah Weiskopf, the Lantern.
Kelly, what's it like seeing the offense operate the way it has, especially early in the first 2 playoff games, and what does it do for a defensive perspective?
You see the offense going out there, putting up points and succeeding at the level they're doing. It really motivates us to go do the same thing, keep getting the ball back. Just watching them, do great things. When they build a lead like they've done in these last 2 games, it makes it easier on us as a defense because, it makes the offense we're going against, one-dimensional. They can't run the ball to, get that lead back and throw the ball. So, it helps us.
Oscar Ward, the podcast.
Like, how many times this season do you feel like you've been fully yourself, fully healthy?
Truthfully, I don't think I've been fully healthy in a while because I've had these all little nick and neck injuries, but I still think I'm producing at a great pace. With my guys next to me, but probably before camp, first couple of games.
So, how close do you feel right now? And did any part of playoff at the end of the regular season, then getting maybe an extra week to Greater Tennessee, or week and a half for Oregon? How much does that help you? How far away are you from the level you want to be at?
I think I'm at a great level right now. There's always going to be a little injuries, battling, but I think I'm perfectly fine right now. I don't have anything I'm worried about right now.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I asked you this question. You've been here personally, the ups and downs, team ups and downs. Does that make what you're doing now, when we got the way we should have the last game, does that make it even more special?
I think definitely, I've been here, going on 4 years, and we haven't really did anything. And just to have this chance, go end it the right way with, all the guys that, are done, like, after this season, I think it's great. Just finishing in the right way is, I might say, right now.
And you're going to be playing in Texas against Texas. Crowd will be, there'll be a lot of Ohio State fans who will travel. But it'll be a pro-Texas crowd for the most part. You guys kind of thrive off that, you like that, you kind of begin to
I mean, you can say that, but we don't really, try to focus on the fans. We just want to, produce on the field. If it's a away game, home game, we just want to go out there and execute.
Fourth row, right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Sadly, if there's a lot that's said when you guys all came back, there's also about what Steve Line could be. These last 2 games, we have 12 sacks. You guys really aren't listening a ton. There's not even starters. The best guys, Kenyatta, Henry's coming in. What's it been like to see this group realize its potential and kind of recap the last 2 weeks?
I say we always knew what we had in our room. It's just now it's just showing up. Teams are scheming us different ways, and it's allowing certain players to make certain plays. And I think we got so many guys in the room. We have 2s that can be 1s anywhere. We have 3s that can be 1s anywhere in the country. But they all decided to stick here and garnish thing out with the guys they came in with. And like I said, I think we have a great group who can make plays anytime.
But you guys get 8 sacks in a game, but also hold all this to minus 23 rush yards in the game. What is that like, and what does that say about just really the job you guys did last Saturday? Last Wednesday, sorry.
I think it's a great feeling, looking up at the scoreboard and seeing like a negative. Definitely. But it's just like all the work we put in over the summer, over the season. We've been building this defense to where it is now, and like I said, when we're executing and we're at a high level, it's hard to do anything with us.
Behind him, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Kelly, I'm not going to ask you to call out officials, okay, but I do want to ask you this. Have you ever been held before?
Yeah, I think our whole D-line gets held, every game. I don't know what the refs are seeing or what's going on with that, but you turn on the tape and really look at it, we're held almost every play. So,
is there something should you guys be better actors? Should you be more dramatic about it? What do you think has to happen for that to get called in your favor one time this season?
we can be active, we don't really teach nothing like that, but I don't know if it's because we're Ohio State, you letting things go or what it is, but it's been, pretty bad. I know y'all see it too. It's every play, almost every game.
I'm not asking you to complain. We'll just do it for you.
Adam King, WBNS.
We got a chance to see a glimpse of Coach Day's pregame speech. The intensity that you've seen from him the last 2 games in the playoffs, is that different than you've seen throughout the year? And what does that do for this group before you go out on the field?
I wouldn't say it's different. He's been like that his whole year, but just now it's getting recorded and posted. But definitely when you see your head coach is fired up like that, it likes to fire you to go out there and do better. And you can't thank Coach Day enough because he's our leader of this team. And when he's like that, he makes you want to go out there and do great for him, for like the guys around us.
Scotty, we're going to go to you and a couple on Zoom.
Yes, sir. We're going to start with Andy Anders. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Texas runs a lot of outside zone schemes. Just what's important for defending those kinds of plays on the ground, and I guess just stringing out those kinds of, so to speak.
Can you say that again?
I unmuted it there. Yeah, just Texas runs a lot of outside zone in their run game, running schemes. Just what's important for defending that kind of play as a defensive tackle?
For a D tackle versus a stretch team, you always want to talk about penetration, like penetrate block players. So really just attacking this game and not catching.
Next question is going to come from Dan Hope. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, Leek. You were in a freshman class with Quinn. Now you're playing against him a few years later. Just what's that like for you?
Quinn's my guy. He's a great competitor, great quarterback. I think it would be fun going against him, trying to get him.
Next question comes from Kurt Bowles. Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, Tully, I don't know if there's one thing you can pinpoint why y'all been so dominant. I would think maybe it comes down to the physical brand of football. Do you feel that's going to be the survivor in this game? Who's the more physical team?
I'll say definitely the most violent team. You know, the team that plays the fastest, executes the most, and exceeds their game plan the most is gonna win this game.
Final question will come from Stefan from Cleveland.com.
Tyleek, what's kind of your relationship been like with Ty Hamilton, especially as this season's progressed, and just how in sync do you feel like you two are playing on the defensive line together?
Me and Ty are, we've been roommates for the past 2 years. We live in the same apartment complex. We play the game together. It's really like one of my best friends on the team, and we talk about a lot of football things. So we're really on the same page with a lot of plays. Teams like to run against us. It could be some stunts we run. We're always connected in some kind of way.
Jerry, back to you.
Great, thank you. Got time for just a couple more questions. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Kelly, what does it say about your defensive line and have to fight for you guys and getting sacks, 13 tackles for a while, so having to bring a ton of extra guys and pressure to push forward, do a lot of that?
I'll say kudos to our coach, Coach Jay. Teaches a lot of technique, and sometimes it doesn't show up because teams scheme you different ways. But when you have a team one-dimensional, like they have to pass the ball, that's when all the pass rush technique and stuff comes out. And I think we've gotten Tennessee and Oregon to those situations where they had to pass the ball and just let us rush free instead of worrying about the run. If that makes sense.
So you can just winning those one-on-ones, those pass rush situations, so allow you guys to get so many sacks and get outs?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely winning way more one-on-ones now, and they're not keeping as many guys in the box to block us because they're trying to come back. So I think it's, like I said, it's just kudos to the offense, creating these big leads and making teams one-dimensional.
Going to the far left, David DeGuzman, WCMH.
Tyleek, we talked about how better the team has gotten as to getting off to fast starts on both sides of the ball, but there has been some scoring late in the first half against Tennessee and against Oregon. Has there been renewed emphasis on controlling the middle eight, and how important will that be against Texas?
Definitely, that's one of Coach Jay's biggest points, controlling the middle eight. Control the middle eight, chances of you winning that game, touchdowns, late in the first half. But, we just got to keep our foot on the gas. We can't let up, at all. Because these teams we're playing are great teams. Like, Texas is a great team. Great offense, great offensive line, great quarterback, great receivers, great running backs. So, we just got to keep executing like we know we can and see how it plays out.
Okay, final questions for Tyleek here. Tim May, Letterman Row.
Tyleek, Aaron Donald used to talk about everybody's hurting at this time of the year. But when the lights come on and the snap goes, what goes off in a guy like yours mind? From the standpoint of making the play. Can you explain that to people who don't get to play down in the middle of it all?
I would say, like I said, you're right. Everybody is hurt around this time. We're 15th week, 14th, deep in the season. You just gotta show up. That's my mindset. You just gotta show up. No matter what I'm going through, I gotta make that play. I gotta be disruptive. Just to help my team out. Because when I'm on my A game, everybody else can feed off of me, or we can feed off of JT, Jack, Ty. But like I said, Coach Mika always says nobody cares. It's true. Nobody really cares if you're hurt, if you're injured. You just gotta go out there and play and make plays.
And you touched on it a little bit. Explain the drive you had personally to get through this next one into the next one. But I know it's one step at a time. But, you came back, etc. Explain to people what's going on in your brain about your motivation.
My motivation, we all have our whys. While we're doing things, we have family, family here, our team, our brotherhood. But you want to do right for your brothers, on this team. We're trying to win the big thing. We're not just, trying to go win 2 games and lose. We're trying to win the big thing, As long as we stay motivated, stay, humble, don't take the rat poison, things like that, and just execute and just play our hardest, and that'll be fun.
Tyleek, thank you very much.
Okay, Scotty and those in Texas, we're going to have one final student athlete. That'll be quarterback Will Howard. He's on making his way up to the podium right now. Our 8th student athlete, safety Lathan Ransom, is feeling a little ill, so we won't be able to talk to him, but we're going to close things out today with some questions for quarterback Will Howard.
Will, thank you. We'll open up the floor here in Columbus. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
You played at that stadium a couple years ago. What are your memories of that? When did it feel up or no? You played there before?
Yeah, I've actually played there twice. We played there in 2021. I didn't start in 2021. It was our first game of the season there, my sophomore year. We played Stanford, and then obviously we played in the Big 12 championship down there. And yeah, man, it's a fun place to play. I've got some fond memories there. Yeah, and it's fun. It is nice to be able to go somewhere that you played in before, and I think a lot of people on this team have played in that stadium, and I think they have some not so fond memories there. So we want to flip the script on that.
Did you watch that game last year?
I did. Yeah.
That was a pivotal game for you because that hadn't happened in the Missouri game.
Yeah.
How intently were you watching?
I was watching. Yeah, no, I was tuned in, man. I was we played Missouri last year, and obviously, the Buckeyes are the Buckeyes, and I was tuned in, man. And so, yeah, I know a lot of these guys on this team, didn't feel great about how that game went. So, it's good that we're getting another chance to go down there and right some wrongs again.
Far left, Noah Weisskopf, the Lantern.
I've got two for you. First, we know at Ohio State what it means to not beat a team like Michigan. How does that equate to losing to Texas from your time at Kansas State? And just describe the feeling of getting another stab at Texas to beat them.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with that rivalry. It's not really the same. But for me personally, that was the only team I didn't beat when I was in the Big 12. So yeah, there's definitely a personally for me a little extra motivation there because I never got the chance to beat these guys. Played them 4 years. And they're always a good team. But I don't think none of those games were unwinnable. Last year we lost in overtime. So definitely excited to get another chance at these guys.
And then what do you think is the biggest difference between your time here versus your time at Kansas State? I guess what's the biggest thing you've learned from being here?
There's a lot of things I've learned, man. I feel like I've grown in a lot of different ways and matured on and off the field. And, I think, and I've said this before, I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from this experience is that, I don't have to make things happen. I think something profound that Coach Kelly told me pretty early on in my career here was, don't make things happen, just let it happen. Just let the game come to you. Be a game manager, take care of the football, make good decisions, and keep us on track. And, when I do that, the completion percentage goes up, efficiency goes up, a lot of things like that. And I just feel like having more of that emphasis on, taking completions, taking checkdowns, staying on schedule, not forcing things to work, but, making positive yards on a play, because sometimes that's all you need to get is just get back to the line of scrimmage, and just making things work. I think that's probably the biggest way I've grown this year.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
A little kind of off that. You talked a couple times this year about a game's never going to be perfect, but it's playoffs. Sometimes people have a tendency to press, want to be perfect. How do you juggle that with also knowing that, like you said, you don't have to be superhuman, you don't have to be perfect for this team to move the ball and continue to be successful?
Yeah, I think those two go hand in hand a little bit. I think you don't want to press to make any wild plays or anything like that because it's the playoffs. And I think your mindset can't change from the regular season or either of the two first playoff games that we played. I think we did a really good job of hitting our shots and taking the game as it came. And not forcing any shots. There maybe were some plays where we had even more shots downfield called and had to check it down. Like there's just, you got to take the game as it comes. You can't force things to happen. And in the playoffs, things can come down to one play, and obviously we want to leave no doubt and make sure that it's not like that. But we know that we're playing a really good team in Texas, and we just got to keep playing free. playing with an edge and doing what we've been doing. And I think we're playing really good football right now, but we just got to keep ramping up and keep getting better and better.
And Luke was talking about you as a leader, kind of the intensity you bring, everything you bring to this group. But it just seems like that's you, like that's kind of your personality, your outgoing personality of this group. What's kind of put in words what this year has been like, how much fun it's been for you, knowing kind of everything that went on in your career and how you got here?
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a blast. I mean, the guys here on the team, they've taken me in, man, and love me for me, and because sometimes I'm unapologetically myself, and I don't know if that rubs some people the wrong way sometimes, but I'm me, and I'm gonna times, but also be super intense, and I'm one competitive son of a gun, so I'm gonna make sure that we're making every opportunity we can to go out there and compete. I love. So I just being here, man. It's been a blessing for me in more than one way, and I've been able to have fun, on one of the biggest stages and kind of be myself and let people see that. I think that's one of the best parts of this, and I just appreciate these guys here for putting up with me and loving me for me.
Over here to the right, Kellyanne Stitz, WSYX.
You made the transition in last year look seamless, but I'm sure it was a lot coming in, learning the playbook, learning the city, just acclimating in general. Who would you identify as your support system, and how have you leaned on them in this past year at Ohio State?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, my support system always is my family, and I lean on them for a ton of different stuff. And when I originally went out to Kansas State, as an 18, 19-year-old kid, my mom came out there a lot. My dad, they helped me a ton when I was transitioning there. And here it was different. I'm older now. I can kind of be on my own a little more. But for me, it was more, acclimating to the team. A new environment. It felt more like a professional kind of move. And I think my family did an unbelievable job of helping me, and obviously it helps that I'm a little closer to home now. I'm only 6.5 hours, I think is the drive from here to Downingtown. It was about 18, 19 when I was at K-State, so I never made that drive. But it's been great. My family was awesome, and then also those other transfer guys I came in with helped a ton. With me being able to come in with, really it was Seth and Q and Will Kazmarek, and then Caleb and Julian came in a little later, but that was a couple weeks after I had gotten here. But we all kind of leaned on each other because we were all kind of going through something similar. We'd all played a lot of football, but had to acclimate to a new team and to a new culture, and I think we had a lot of fun with it, and I think we're just all thankful to be here and be Buckeyes.
Nicole Sheeran, WBNS.
Well, I feel like this season, there's been a big theme of redemption and revenge for you, whether it's against Oregon or, making that statement against Penn State. Now you have a chance to do it against Texas. How does that just fire you up, and is that kind of a difference maker for you out there?
Yeah, I think, I try to find motivation in a lot of different things, and, I've always kind of looked at myself as somewhat of an underdog, and I wasn't super highly recruited. Nobody really expected me to play early at K-State, and I kind of got thrown in. And, I kind of like to take on that, underdog mentality a little bit, and that chip on my shoulder. And, I think that does help myself and give myself a little edge, a little more extra motivation at times. But, it also has to come from within, and it can't be, you making up a story to get you pumped up every single week. You obviously have to strive and want to be the best, but it's just so happened that there's been some games this year that have been a little personal to me, and that have hit home. But we got 2 more games left, and this one coming up is the biggest game that we're going to play this year, because it's the next one, and because there's 4 teams left, and we know Texas is a heck of a football team, and I played them for 4 years and wasn't able to beat them. I mean, they're a good squad, so we're gonna have to be on our stuff, and I'm just excited and thankful to be here, and I'm ready for the challenge.
We're going to take a couple more in Columbus and then head on to the Zoom, and then we'll finish up here in Columbus. Austin Ward, the podcast.
Well, as you got into the Texas film in the last couple of days, how much of it is I've seen a lot of
Yeah, I've actually, I went back and watched our game from last year. I think there's some different different personnel in there, some new players, but a lot of the same stuff. And I feel like they, defensively are, they kind of do what they do, and they're pretty darn good at it. They got some dudes in the back. Barron's a really good player. They got that freshman up front who's really good. I think number 95 is playing really good football right now. So they got a stout front, not necessarily as big as those two dudes were last year, but they got some dudes, man. So schematically, yeah, they're doing some of the same stuff, but everybody changes year in and year out. So got to continue to grind on them and make sure that we know them inside and out.
Ryan and Chip had mentioned that in some of the game planning meetings that you had more voice in that. Is your experience with the Texas defense and looking at them 4 times, do you think that, how much more will you suggest some things or maybe not suggest some things this week?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say it's any more different or any different really than a normal week. Obviously I do have a little more experience with these guys and maybe have some more stronger feelings on, hey, I like this or I don't like this. I don't know. We really haven't, came across that too much. It's felt like kind of a normal week. I have felt more involved in the game planning process, and they want to make sure that they're running plays that I like, and vice versa. I want to make sure that I'm running them the right way, and so we all got to be on the same page. So I try to get in there as much as I can, and it's been so good for me, for my development and my just knowledge of the game, just to be around great minds like them all the time.
Rob Muller, Columbus Dispatch. Yeah, Will, you played a lot of football. You've seen a lot of postseason formats. Does this already feel like a really long season?
Yeah, kind of. It's a little bit, but I knew it. We all knew this was the format, and we all understood that we were going to be playing football, until January 20th. If we make it this far, and we obviously expected to be here, and we're not going to sit here and say we're not proud of the fact that we are here, because there's only 4 teams practicing this week, so we are proud of it, but that doesn't mean anything yet. We still haven't done anything yet. We still have 2 more games to win before we can really say we did anything.
When you're in practice, JT and Jack are coming up. Do you see the fire in their eyes even in practice?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've seen the edge in those guys the last couple weeks, man. And me and Jack talk to each other a lot. Just like after practice, like how was it? How was it over there? Was the energy up today? We getting guys going, and Jack's such a good leader over there too. And JT's doing the same thing. He's keeping those guys going. Talking some mess if he needs to. Those guys are awesome, man. So I think the way that we've practiced the last 2 weeks has propelled us to perform the way we have on the field. So we need to continue to practice the way that we've been practicing and having that same edge out there.
All right, Scotty, we'll let you take it away for a few Zoom calls.
Yes, sir. First one's going to come from Danny Davis. Danny, go ahead.
Hey, well, from what you've seen on film and also what you remember last year, what are your impressions of not only Jade but the other cornerbacks, Manny Muhammad, Gavin Holmes, over there at Texas?
Yeah, I think they're really athletic. They're big. They're good. I mean, they're good players. They're instinctual. You can tell that they go against a really good offense every single day, and there's certain things that they're pretty good at that they probably see a lot from Quinn and their offense. But I think overall, man, they got some good players, but we got some pretty good players too. So I'm excited to see the matchup, man. It's I think they're more of a zone operation. Want to stay on top of some stuff, but I'm looking forward to it. I think they have a great secondary, and those dudes have had a hell of a year. So we wouldn't want it any differently than going up against the best. So I'm excited.
Next question is going to come from Stephen Means. Go ahead.
Well, statistically, Texas has the best pass defense in the country, 5.5 yards per attempt. You just mentioned that they're a kind of a zone operation. From a schematic standpoint, what you've seen, How do they test the quarterback size that's allowed them to be performing at the level they performed this year?
You know, I think they try to bait you into doing things, and I think they try to bait you into pushing the ball into tight windows, and you got to be smart. You know, playing a defense like this, you have to know when to take those shots and when not to, you know, and when to be smart with it. And, you know, there's cavities, there's creases in it, but you just have to find them and be patient with it and not force it to happen because, you know, those guys react quick, and they break on balls well, especially at the corner position. You know, I think their safeties are really, really physical, really good players. So, yeah, man, it's going to be a challenge. You know, may have to be a little more patient at the quarterback position at times, and not just trying to force things, but you know, like I said, taking the game as it comes.
Next question is going to come from Michael Cohen. Go ahead.
Hey Will, when Ryan Day spoke on Friday, he mentioned that for him personally, at this time of the year, he's been able to be a little bit more involved in the X's and O's and the nitty-gritty than maybe he was at other times of the year when there's other responsibilities on modern college football coaches. To what degree maybe can you draw a connection between his increased involvement and some of the explosive passing gains that we've seen the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, man, he's definitely been more involved in the game planning process. You know, obviously, you know, you take out some of the BS that he has to deal with is, you know, the changing nature of college football. You know, he's more of sometimes a general manager, you know, in the off season and even in the early season than you know, being a head coach. But you know, I feel like now with the playoffs and, you know, having 10 days between each game, we're really able to refine our game plan, get in there and really find what we like. And I think it's been really positive for us these last 2 weeks, and we just gotta. I'm excited, you know, to see what we draw up this week, and hopefully do the same thing.
Our next one's going to come from Donovan Bridgeport.
Hey Will, Donovan Bridgeport, TXA 24 News. I know as a unit you guys are focused on the many ways the Longhorns may attack you guys, but if there's one player on their defense that you studied the most in your preparation for this game, who is that player, and how have they altered your preparation as it's went this week?
That's a good question. I don't think there's ever one guy that I sit there and just you know, watch a ton of. I try to watch all of them equally because, you know, they're all out there. You know, I think number 7, I'm definitely keeping a close eye on. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, he won the Thorpe Award. He's a hell of a player. You know, I'm definitely watching him. You know, I think 11's pretty destructive up front. You know, I think number 0 is a dynamic player and a super, super good athlete. You know, so I wouldn't say there's one guy in particular just because they have a ton of dudes at every level. You know, but definitely going to try and find some interesting ways to attack them. And, you know, they're good players, man. So it's going to be a challenge, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sorry, just the counter plays have really opened up this running game. It feels like it in some ways. Just from your vantage point, what is working on counter, and what about the offensive line and running backs you guys have allows that play to be successful?
Yeah, they're doing a really good job on that play right now, and you know, I think it was, you know, in the last 2 games, it was just something that, you know, we felt like we could attack them with, and you know, we'll see what it's going to be this week. You know, it's different from week to week, but you know, I think those guys did a really good job on their double teams, getting some movement up front, and then the guards did a really good job, you know, kicking and reaming those DNs, and our tight ends are blocking their butts off right now. So you know, I think that, you know, that was a good play for us the last 2 weeks, and you know, we'll see what Texas presents to us, and you know, what kind of schemes we're going to attack them with. But yeah, it's been a positive scheme, and you know, anytime we can get those guys downhill and rocking off the ball, you know, that's good.
Final question is going to come from Dan. Go ahead.
Hey, Will, you mentioned seeing yourself as an underdog. Quinn was the #1 overall recruit in the country. Is that something that you use as motivation when you're going head-to-head with him?
No, man, I'm not worried about that. You know, we're on 2 different teams. You know, we're on the 2 of the best teams in the country. You know, this isn't an individual battle, man. This is a team battle. I'm not putting myself up against anyone. I'm putting me and my guys up against him and his guys. This is a team sport. So I'm not worried about that at all.
Actually, got one last question from Kurt Bowles. Kurt?
Yeah, Will, I'm curious on your decision to go to Ohio State, why you picked the Buckeyes. Did you have like a top 3 you were considering, and did you get any crazy offers?
I think it's pretty clear why I chose the Buckeyes. Standing here today in front of you, this is why I wanted to come here, man. When I was in the transfer portal process, there were a ton of schools reaching out to me, and really when it came down to it, it was pretty much coming here or going to the draft last year. Miami, USC were some other schools, but it was either I'm going to be a Buckeye or I'm going to the draft, and I just felt like I couldn't pass up the opportunity to come here and be a Buckeye and get a chance at winning a national championship, because this is why I came here, man, and this is why we're here. So got to finish the job.
That's it from Zoom.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, folks, we can't keep him much longer. We're going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly. Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Well, Ryan said the other day that he's been pleased with the consistency of your footwork, I think, especially in a lot of these downfield concepts you guys are working. How much time did you put into that between, I think, about 3 weeks, I guess, between Michigan and Tennessee, and what's it like to see the progress of that so far?
Yeah, I don't think it was anything different. It's just been continuing to grind on it and get my feet moving, and that's a credit to them, being on me about that in practice and making that an emphasis for me in practice, is getting my feet moving and getting them going, because you can't develop that consistency if you don't do it in practice. So I think just them, Billy and Coach Kelly and Coach Day getting on me about that in practice, making sure that that's an emphasis for me, is keeping my feet moving, and when I have my feet underneath me and my feet are active, good things happen.
Kevin Newton, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, well, asking you to look back at the Rose Bowl for a second. What happened with the post-game stage incident? What's going through your mind when they don't let you out there? And then secondly, not asking you to look ahead or provide bulletin board material, but if given that opportunity again, do you take a different game plan as a mobile quarterback about getting up there?
Yeah, man, it was strictly a weight limit thing, so I think it might have, I don't know if it was like a poorly executed fat joke or what this guy was trying to do, I don't know, I'm kidding, but I guess he said there was a weight limit, there's too many people on, everyone's making up stories, but that's all it was. He was telling me sorry, it's not my call, and so I ended up going to the other side and jumping on, but it was, a bunch of us had to sneak on, you didn't see it, but Caleb had to sneak on, and I think Lathan snuck on. So they were trying to be strict about it, but it is what it is, man. I guess they're doing their job, so I got nothing.
Adam King, DNS.
The last 2 games, you guys have gotten the ball first. As a quarterback, would you rather have the ball coming out at halftime with a chance to set the tone with 30 minutes to go, or get out there and a chance to get up 7-0?
It's a good question. You say you want to take the ball first until you don't score on that first drive, and then it's like, but you get the ball first and you go down and score, and that makes a huge difference. There's something, I really am indifferent to it. Whatever happens, happens. I can't control the flip of a coin. But I think I do like having the ball. I think there's something, kind of fun about that, getting to go out there and set the tone on offense. But I do think that there's something cool also about getting the ball at halftime and let your defense go out there and shut them down for 3 plays and then get the ball back. So you go either way, man. But I do like getting the ball first and being able to go out there and set the tone.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Will, you talk about how you never beat Texas. The game last year against them seems crazy. You were at passing yards and went down to overtime, 4th down. In terms of losses, that stick with you, I imagine, more than this one. Just looking at how much do you think back to that time, that particular game against Texas?
Yeah, that one still sticks with me. Still pisses me off a little bit. I just felt like we had it. We had the ball on the 6-yard line, 4 downs, and couldn't punch it in there. So yeah, man, I know there's a lot of people back in Kansas that are rooting for the Buckeyes to get this one done against these guys. But yeah, man, it's a new place for me. But yeah, I guess I don't like how that one ended, and I am excited to get another chance at these guys.
but they're a great team, so it'll be a good challenge.
You played the Big 12 with Texas team, everybody wanted.
I feel like it was Texas and OU were kind of the big dogs around the Big 12 conference, and whether it was always like that or not, that was kind of the sentiment around the conference. So they definitely were walking around being the tough guys, and they beat up on us a little bit. So I'm excited.
3 quickies. Steve Hellwagen, 24/7.
Chip Kelly took a lot of abuse after the Michigan game. I thought watching the Rose Bowl, the first play to G, the underneath throw to Jeremiah for the touchdown, the pass where he's wide open for the touchdown. Looked like he called an outstanding game. From your standpoint, and obviously you're going to boost him as your guy, but was that one of the better ones, I guess, that you've seen from him?
I think so, yeah. I think it was just and I think we were all on the same page about this going into the game, was we were going to be aggressive and we wanted to start out hot, and that play that we started the game off with was actually like a work in progress all week. We weren't really sure how much we liked it, and we grinded on it the last couple of days before the game and came out the first play and ran it and ripped them on it. So that's just a credit to the guys and working at it and executing it when it counts. But I do think he was in his bag, and he was calling that game from an aggressive mindset, and you can feel that when you're on the field and your coordinator believes in you and is just taking shots and throwing haymakers like that. It's fun.
Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Well, you talk about being patient against a defense like this that likes to bait you guys
Mhm.
is instinctual. When you say patience, do you mean on a play-to-play level?
Yeah, I mean more on like a series level. You may go out there on a play and you call a shot on first down and it's not the right coverage, or they drop out of there and it's they're over top of everything. You got to check it down. You can't be discouraged with that, because there's been multiple times this year where I've thrown checkdowns for 20, 30 yards, and those are good plays. You can't get discouraged with that. It's just keeping the game on schedule and staying ahead of the sticks.
And final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Whatever. I asked you this a little bit before the game when I told you Justin Fry. I don't think it's almost like a major award. He said the way you stepped up in the leadership situation after Seth McLaughlin went down in the practice, he said it was so huge for that offensive line and stuff. What do you see from this group now as you guys head into game 3?
The O-line?
Yeah, the O-line, the way it's taking these punches and kept coming back. I mean, what impresses you most, I guess, about that group?
Yeah, man, their resilience, and I'm just really, really proud of the way that they've bounced back and not listened to the critics and gone out there and proved themselves against some really, really good fronts. And they got another challenge coming up with Texas. I'm excited. I know they're excited, for this opportunity. But they played really good football these last 2 games, and when they're on their stuff, man, and when they're playing with confidence, they're really, really hard to stop. And we just got to keep staying on those guys and saying, man, you're playing some damn good football. We need them to continue to grind and be those dudes that they are, because when we're clicking, those guys are we're running behind them all the way.
Great. Will, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Go Bucks.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Will.